Gentleman from Pennsylvania is recognized for 5 minutes. Mr. Thompson.
Chairman. Mr. Ryan, thank you. Thank you for being here for one of our most crucial missions, keeping our children safe. Really appreciate your work. I was pleased to learn of your initiative, Safe to Compete, yes. Which raises awareness of child athlete sexual abuse and provides training and preparedness opportunities. And I'm sure we can all agree that putting forth a set of best practices will ensure our children will be safer when participating in sports. Can you briefly describe what is currently being done to ensure our athletes are protected and how, as policymakers, we can further assist with those efforts?
As a result of that Safe to Compete conference, where we drew together most of the nation's largest youth sports entities and mental health professionals as well as community leaders, they signed on to what you have referred to as best practices, which includes that critical stage when an organization is taking on either a volunteer or a paid staff member who will have close contact with these children. Many of these organizations have overnight, weekend stays, even week to a month stays. So parents need to know who they are entrusting their children over to, who is literally going to be responsible for their children. These organizations now are doing background checks, they're doing criminal history checks, so they are able to detect red flags before they turn over the care and custody of these children to these, whether they be volunteers or staff members. Now, more needs to be done, and that's where I think Congress can help, because we need a nationwide uniform program of background checks. The larger organizations can afford it. They can, pass that on through dues or other, grants that they get. But the small local community-based organizations, and there are thousands of them, they cannot. So we need to supplement their ability to do the same background checks, because it's equally as important, because there's a gap then, and predators find the gaps. They're not going to go to an organization where they know they're going to, be vetted and checked out. They'll go to a small organization, because as long as they have kids, that's all they need. And if they're not going to be properly, vetted, then they get in the front door, and that's where the problems are. So we need a nationwide uniform approach of background checks. Fingerprints have proven to be the most reliable and comprehensive. There is a cost associated with that, but there are ways to spread that cost around. We've worked with some of our partners like LexisNexis. They have, as a result of Safe to Compete, they actually helped fund that conference, Congressman, and they offered a discount rate to community organizations to provide those necessary checks to ensure that cost was not a prohibiting factor. So we're prepared to work with Congress. We can identify some of these corporate partners who could help defray some of these costs, but it needs to be done.
Very good. Thank you. I want to switch gears here. You do such great education. I wanted to zero in on your Net Smarts workshop. That seems like a valuable tool to students, teachers, and parents. Can you talk a little more about this program, and how will the new initiative, Kid Smarts, differ from your main education program?
Well, we're expanding on Net Smarts. Started out as primarily a web-based platform where we provided the access to teachers and educators to come to our website, download their resources, and then utilize them in their school. Because we've grown, as I mentioned, we have our own in-house studio now. Some of them get a little carried away. They think they're like Disney animators, but they've created characters and formats, again, that are age appropriate. So you don't want to scare kids at the age of 5, but yet some of these kids have access to iPads. So you can't neglect them and say, well, wait until they get a little older. You have to approach them and address them as soon as they're starting to access these devices. So, but yet the same message, the same cartoons, a high school student is going to say, obviously, not for me. But they are still vulnerable. Sexting, sextortion, those are new offenses that are targeting what we call tweens. They're the ones who are socially adept at utilizing the technology, much more so than I, but yet they don't know the real world problems that are being facilitated through those devices. So again, we now have the ability to target these messages And we have the platform now, but we still need that entree. I think we need, a committee like this and other partners to get into this discussion, because it's free. At the end of the day, it's free. This Kid Smarts program we're going to launch in September, totally paid for by Honeywell. Not a dime of taxpayer funds, and they are committed. If this is successful, as we hope it is, they're not going to just say this is a one-time release. They will stand behind it, and other partners will step up. We've been in touch with the Rotary Association. I didn't realize how strong they are. 1.2 billion members, and they are all the stakeholders that we would hope to deal with. Business leaders, educators, political leaders, the schools. They are adopting now some of our challenges. They are about to take on child sex trafficking as maybe their next national campaign after polio. That is huge, because they touch all the important sectors that we need to touch that we couldn't do without support like that. So again, we look forward to the partnership with this committee, because you have the same charter, and we can, I think, with our subject matter expertise in this area, work well together.
Thank you.
Thank you. Gentleman's time's expired.